It is no longer news. Nigeria has a new security office right in the heart of the presidency of Nigeria. A new appointment was made. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appointed Major General Adeyinka Famadewa, a special advisor of Homeland Security. This announcement has triggered debate. Some people see it as a necessary response to Nigeria's changing security crisis, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, border infiltration, cybercrime, attacks on critical infrastructure, and intelligence failure. Others see it as a possible duplication of the role and office of the National Security Advisor. Some Nigerians ask, does Nigeria now have two security advisors? Others still ask, is this the beginning of a Nigerian version of the United States Department of Homeland Security? Ordinary Nigerians simply want to know one thing. Will this make the country safer? Tonight, on the other side, we examine the verified public debate, Nigeria's existing security structure, the difference between the Homeland Security Advisor and National Security Advisor, how other countries organize their homeland security, and what this appointment could mean for Nigeria's troubled security landscape. This is not a partisan analysis. It is an institutional question. Because insecurity titles do not save lives. Clear mandates, lawful authority, intelligence sharing, coordination, accountability, and political will to do what is right is what brings safety to the people. My name is Rimamnde Shawulu. On May 11 and 12, 2026, official government channels reported that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had approved the appointment of Major General Adeyinka Famadewa, a retired military officer, as the Special Advisor on Homeland Security. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation said the appointment was made in recognition of the retired general's service of record, strategic expertise, and contribution to Nigerian security architecture. The official statement said that the role is intended to strengthen internal security coordination, enhance intelligence-driven operations, and deepen interagency collaboration in responding to emerging security threats across Nigeria. The announcement also described the retired general with more than 3 decades of military and intelligence service, including work in national security strategies, intelligence fusion, counterterrorism operations, and internal security diplomacy. There is another important detail. The official statement says he previously served as Principal General Staff Officer to the National Security Advisor from 2015 to 2021, and that he was involved in intelligence coordination, including the establishment of an intelligence fusion structure involving agencies such as Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Intelligence Agency, the Department of State Services, and the Nigerian Police Force, as well as the armed forces. So, from verified information, 3 things are very clear. First, this is a presidential advisory appointment. Second, the official emphasis is on internal security coordination and intelligence integration. Third, there is no publicly available official statement as of this briefing showing that the new office has independent command authority over the armed forces, police, DSS, NIA, civil defense, immigration, customs, or any other operational security body in Nigeria. This distinction is important. An advisor is not automatically a commander. A coordinator is not automatically an operational chief. And a presidential office is not automatically a statutory department. However, as expected, the appointment has received 2 broad reactions. The favorable argument is straightforward. Supporters say Nigeria's security crisis has become too complex for all coordination models. The country is facing overlapping security threats: insurgency in the northeast, banditry and mass kidnappings in the northwest, much violence and insurgency in the middle belt communities, separatist violence and organized crime in the southeast, piracy and oil theft in the south side, and urban crime across major cities in Nigeria, including Abuja, the federal capital. In this environment, they argue that Nigeria needs someone focused specifically on homeland security, not just military defense, not just intelligence, not just policing, but the domestic security system as a whole. Supporters also argued that Famadewa's intelligence background may help strengthen intelligence fusion and interagency coordination. A civil group, the Center for Humanitarian and Homeland Advancement, further defended the appointment and argued that critics were misunderstanding modern security governance. According to them, the office is not a sign of failure, but an adaptation to new security realities. The unfavorable arguments, of course, are also serious and obvious. Critics ask whether the new office duplicates the existence of the role of the National Security Advisor. If Nigeria already has a National Security Advisor, a Security Council, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, Armed Forces, Police, the Secret Security, the NIA, DIA, Civil Defense, Immigration, Customs, and emergency services. What exactly will a special advisor on Homeland Security be doing? Will he advise the president separately from the NSA? Will agencies report to him? Will he coordinate cooperation? Will he supervise intelligence? Will he sit above the Ministry of Interior? Will he have authority over domestic security agencies? Or will he simply add another layer to an already crowded security bureaucracy? Critics also worry about the militarization of internal security. Nigeria's domestic security problems are not just military problems. They involve policing, justice, border management, local governance, intelligence, community protection, emergency response, arms control, economic disruption, and political legitimacy. As a matter of fact, it has been argued by some that one of the reasons why the security situation has worsened is because government at the local levels have completely collapsed, especially in northern Nigeria, and local governments no longer provide the very important service of being the first responders to crisis and being the primary place where intelligence will be derived about movements of insurgency or development of new security threats. So the concern is this: if the office becomes another military-style layer over civilian security problems, it may not solve the underlying governance gaps. Both sides, of course, we know raise valid questions. The appointment may become useful. It may also become confusing. The answer depends on the mandate, legal authority, reporting line, and institutional discipline. To understand the debate, we must first understand Nigeria's security architecture. At the top of it is the president, who is the commander-in-chief of Nigeria's armed forces and the chief law enforcement officer, who had said, obviously, as part of his criticism of previous governments, that the buck stops on the table of the president. The Constitution also establishes the National Security Council. Its membership includes the President, Vice President, Chief of Defense Staff, relevant ministers such as Defense, Interior, and Foreign Affairs, the National Security Advisor, Inspector General of Police, and others appointed by the President. Its function is to advise the President on public security and the security agencies established by law. The Office of the National Security Advisor, according to the State House, is responsible for the leadership, management, and capacity development of the security architecture of the country. Then there are operational ministries and agencies. These include the Ministry of Defense, that provides civilian authority and oversight over the military institutions of Nigeria and defense matters. The armed forces conduct military operations through the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. The Ministry of Interior supervises several security and civilian protection institutions, including immigration, correctional services, civil defense, fire service, among others. The Nigerian police is the primary law enforcement institution. The Department of State Security Services handles domestic intelligence and state security. The National Intelligence Agency handles external intelligence. The Defense Intelligence Agency handles military intelligence. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has roles in civil protection and critical infrastructure security. The Immigration Service handles border and migration control. The Nigerian Customs Services operates at the border, economy, customs, enforcement, smuggling, revenue interface. The National Emergency Management Agency and the state emergency agencies deal with disaster response and humanitarian agencies. If you look at the complete picture, Nigeria does not lack agencies. Nigeria lacks effective coordination, timely intelligence sharing, interoperability of databases, accountable command chains, local early warnings, rapid response. That is why the new office could matter, but only if it solves coordination problems rather than creating new ones. Nigeria's current security landscape is not a single crisis. It is a system of overlapping crises. In the northeast, jihadist insurgency remains a major threat. In the northwest, banditry has evolved into organized armed violence involving kidnapping, cattle rustling, extortion, village raids, trafficking, and sometimes ideological overlap with extremist networks, some coming from the Sahel. In the Middle Belt, of course, communal violence, land conflict, criminal raids, militia activities, identity politics, and also raids by militant and insurgent groups from both the Northwest and the Northeast have created a prolonged security environment. In the Southeast, separatist linked violence, criminal enforcement networks, attacks on security personnel have weakened civic life in some areas. In the Niger Delta, oil theft, pipeline vandalization, militancy, illegal refining, and maritime crime have remained persistent threats. Across the country, kidnapping for ransom has become both a criminal economy and a national trauma. Nigerian borders remain vulnerable. Weapons flow across the Sahel. At the last count, it was said that 500 million small arms and light weapons were circulating in West Africa. 70% of those arms are circulating in Nigeria. Criminal networks have moved across weak border corridors. Insurgents exploit ungoverned spaces, and conflict in neighboring countries easily spill into Nigeria. This is where the concept of Homeland Security becomes relevant. Homeland Security is not just about soldiers fighting terrorists. It is about protecting the domestic space of the state. It includes borders, airports, seaports, cyber systems, energy infrastructure, transport networks, public buildings, emergency response teams, intelligence sharing, community protection, and coordination between federal and state authorities. If the new special advisor focuses on these gaps, the appointment could help Nigeria build a more integrated internal security doctrine. But if the office becomes just another senior title without budget clarity, legal definition, or agency cooperation, it may become symbolic. The security landscape does not need any more symbolism. It needs functional coordination. The difference between the National Security Advisor and the Homeland Advisor must be made very clear. The National Security Advisor has a broad national security role that includes strategic advice to the President, coordination of security policy, support to the National Security Council, intelligence coordination, and the harmonization of defense, foreign policy, intelligence, and internal security concerns. The NSS role covers the whole national security environment, external threats, internal threats, intelligence, defense, regional security, terrorism, strategic policy, and crisis management. The Homeland Security Advisor, based on the official statement, appears to have a narrower domestic focus. That focus includes internal security coordination, intelligence-driven operations, interagency collaboration, and proactive risk management. So the simplest distinction is this. The National Security Advisor looks at the full Security Advisor looks at the full security interests of the state. The Homeland Security Advisor should focus on the security of the domestic space. There is a danger. In Nigeria, internal security is already part of national security. The two overlap that means overlap is unavoidable. The solution is not to pretend that there is no overlap. The solution is to define the overlap. Of course, there's a major problem in trying to make a distinction between internal and external challenges. The fact of the matter is that from 1989, when the Berlin Wall collapsed, there has been an overlap in security challenges, and most of the conflicts that we have had in the world until recently have been internal conflicts, and that is why the concept arose. That's why the concept of new wars arose, because the distinction between external and internal conflicts have simply blurred. There's hardly any reason to believe or to make a distinction today between internal and external threats, because external threats that are ideological do not see boundaries. They move from one jurisdiction to another, and people sitting in Nigeria may as well be receiving orders from the Middle East or any other parts of the world. And people sitting in Nigeria may be coordinating conflicts in other parts of the world. And so the distinction between internal and external security have become largely academic across the world today. Of course, this is why countries organize homeland security in different ways. There is no single global model, but there are three broad patterns that we can identify. The first is the departmental model, where the homeland security is handled by a full ministry of department. This is what happened in the United States after the 9/11 crisis. The second is the Interior Ministry model, common in Europe, where internal security, policing, immigration, civil protection, and counterterrorism are led by a Ministry of Interior or Home Affairs. And of course, we do have the Ministry of Interior in Nigeria, which used to coordinate all these agencies, including customs, which in the last few years was moved from the Ministry of Interior and taken to Ministry of Finance, because the government thinks that collection of money should be the primary duty of the customs, whereas the customs in most parts of the world is part of the security architecture and is coordinated by the security agencies or ministry. The third is the coordinating advisor model, where a senior advisor or council helps the head of government coordinate policies across ministries and agencies, does not directly command operational forces. Nigeria's new appointment, of course, will be a new thing, because, of course, the Homeland Security in the United States functions more or less like the Ministry of Interior in Nigeria. It is a cabinet department with operational agencies. DHS agencies include Custom and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Transport Security Administration, FEMA, Cyber Security, Infrastructural Security Agency, USA Secret Service, and the USA Coast Guard. But the US also has a National Security Advisor. The National Security Advisor is based in the White House. The NSA advises the president and helps coordinate policy through the National Security Council and is not involved in operations. That is a major distinction. In the past, when the former National Security Advisor was involved in the procurement of weapons and ammunition, and of course, this, many analysts believe, may have diverted the attention of the Security Advisor's office in Nigeria from its core responsibility of advice and coordination, and looking at the security situation with an eye to the future problems. The 2025 White House Directive describes the National Security Advisor as responsible at the President's discretion for determining the National Security Council's agenda, ensuring papers are prepared, recording and communicating Council actions and presidential decisions. It also distinguishes the Homeland Security Advisor's role when the National Security Council convenes at the Homeland Security Council. This distinction is crucial. The National Security Advisor does not command the Pentagon. He does not command the DHS. He does not command the CIA. He does not command the FBI. He advises, coordinates, convenes, and communicates presidential decisions. Operational departments act through their own legal authorities and mandates. This is the lesson for Nigeria. If Nigeria creates a Homeland Security Advisor, then the office should coordinate and advise, and it should have functions that are distinct from the functions of the National Security Advisor. If Nigeria wants a Department of Homeland Security that requires legislation, institutional restructuring, budget oversight, and clear agency transfer, one cannot simply create a department by creating an advisor, because the existing departments, whether their heads are appointed by the president or not, will insist on keeping their turf, and this may complicate Nigeria's security challenges. France uses a strong interior ministry model. The Ministry of Interior plays a crucial role in internal security, public order, migration, civil security, counterterrorism-related domestic policy, and territorial administration. Germany also uses an interior ministry and federal system. Internal security is divided between federal and state authorities, while civil protection and disaster response involve federal support and state responsibility. India has a powerful Ministry of Home Affairs responsible for internal security, border management, central armed police forces, disaster management, and central state coordination. Its model is especially relevant to Nigeria because India, like Nigeria, is a large federal country with diverse internal security pressures. Australia has a Department of Home Affairs which covers migration, border protection, cyber and critical security, infrastructure resilience, counterterrorism coordination, social cohesion, and national resilience. These models show one lesson. Homeland security is not usually operated by one person. It is a system. It requires agencies, budget, information sharing platforms, emergency protocols, border systems, policing capacity, intelligence structures, and political accountability. Nigeria's appointment may be useful only if it becomes part of a larger system reform. In most democracies, the National Security Advisor sits near the head of government. The NSS job is not to personally command troops or police. The NSS job is to help the president or prime minister understand threats, evaluate policy options, coordinate agencies, and ensure that national security decisions are implemented across government. Operational departments remain responsible for their executions and follow the laws that created them. The Defense Ministry handles defense policy. The military conducts military operations. The Foreign Ministry handles diplomacy. Interior or Home Affairs Ministry handles domestic policy, security policy. Police institutions enforce the law. Intelligence agencies unlawfully replace them. This is the classic distinction. Strategic advice is different from operational command. Policy coordination is different from law enforcement authority. Intelligence fusion is different from intelligence control. Emergency preparedness is different from emergency command. Interagency collaboration is different from agency supervision. When these distinctions are respected, the systems work better. When they are ignored, the systems become confused. Nigeria needs a homeland security framework anyway, because many of its threats are domestic and networked. A kidnapping in Kaduna may involve arms from Sahel, ransom transfer through financial networks, informants in local communities, forest camps across state borders, and weak police presence across the whole country. An attack on a power transmission line may affect several states. A terrorist attack may involve intelligence failures across federal, state, and local government agencies. A border infiltration problem may involve migration, customs, police, DSS, local vigilantes, and neighboring countries. A school abduction may require early warning, community policing, rapid response, negotiation strategy, intelligence surveillance, victim support, and media discipline. No single agency can handle all of this alone. That is why Homeland Security is fundamentally about integration. Nigeria needs a framework that asks the following questions. Who is responsible for the early warning? Who receives local intelligence? Who verifies it? Who acts on it? Who coordinates the police, military, DSS, civil defense, migration, and local authorities? Who protects critical infrastructure? Who manages border threats data? Who leads mass casualty events? Who communicates with the public? Who is accountable when agencies fail to share intelligence? If the new advisor helps these questions, their appointments may have value. The first risk in this creation is duplication. If the Homeland Security Advisor begins doing what the NSA already does, it will create rivalry. The second risk is unclear authority. If agencies are unsure whether the answer to the NSA, the Homeland Security Advisor, ministers, service chiefs, or the president directly, crisis response may slow down. The third risk is militarization. Internal security requires police, intelligence, prosecution, border management, emergency response, and community legitimacy. If the office becomes too military in orientation, Nigeria may deepen a pattern where military response are used for problems that require governance and law enforcement solutions. The fourth risk is lack of statutory backing. A presidential advisor may be powerful politically, but without legal clarity, agencies may resist cooperation or interpret directives inconsistently. The fifth risk is public suspicion. In Nigeria, security appointments are often interpreted through regional political, ethnic, religious, or factional lenses. If government does not explain the mandate clearly, speculation will fill the vacuum. The sixth risk is weakening existing institutions. Nigeria does not need more powerful personalities sitting above weak agencies. It needs strong agencies, clearer lines of responsibility, better trained police, effective intelligence coordination, stronger border systems, and accountable emergency responses. To avoid confusion, the presidency should clarify 7 issues. First, what is the legal basis of the office? 2, does the office report directly to the president, to the NSA, or through a defined security coordination structure? 3, does the office have authority to summon agencies or only to advise them? 4, what is the relationship with the Office of the National Security Advisor? 5, what is the relationship with the Ministry of Interior? 6, will it have a budget, staff, or secretariat? And 7, will it publish a national Homeland Security strategy? Without these answers, debate will continue. With these answers, the office may become a useful tool of coordination. The president should issue a mandate explaining the role, limits, and reporting line of the special advisor on Homeland Security. The National Assembly should request a formal briefing to understand the office budgetary implications and legal status. The Ministry of Interior should not be bypassed. It should be strengthened. If Nigeria eventually wants a Homeland Security Department, that should be done through law, not administrative provision. And in any case, already we do have that department. That is the role that Ministry of Interior is playing. So what does this appointment mean? It could mean reform, it could mean duplication, or it could become the missing link between Nigeria's many security agencies. The answer depends on what happens next. But if the office is left vague, if it competes with the NSA, if it bypasses ministries, if it confuses reporting lines, or if it becomes another militarized layer over internal security, it may worsen the very problem it was created to solve. Nigeria's crisis do not require titles alone. It requires doctrine. It requires law. It requires coordination. It requires state capacity. It requires intelligence sharing. It requires accountable policing. It requires border control. It requires protection of communities. It requires emergency readiness. And above all, it requires clarity. Because in a country facing terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, separatist violence, cyber threats, border security, institutional confusion is not a small matter. It is a national risk. The creation of a special advisor on Homeland Security may therefore be an opportunity, but an opportunity is not an achievement. The real test is whether this appointment improves coordination, strengthens lawful institutions, and helps Nigerians feel safer in their homes, roads, farms, market, places of worship, and schools. That is the question citizens should ask, not merely who was appointed, but what authority does he have? What problem is he solving? What is he to coordinate? And who does he report to? Who is accountable? And how will this reduce insecurity? Until those questions are asked, the debate will continue. But one thing is very clear. Nigeria does not need more confusion in its security architecture. Nigeria needs a security system that works. I am Rimamnde Shawulu. Thank you for watching. Please join us in the debate on Nigeria's Homeland Security Advisor. Is it a new appointment or a parallel office? Is it a duplication, a coordinator? Is it a reform or confusion? Will it improve Nigeria's security or just worsen the security challenges that we have in Nigeria? Please remember to subscribe to our channel for non-partisan analysis of Nigeria's security and governance.